It's not. Oh, don't say that. Is it? I've got 24 on here. Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Well, we're live. Sorry. Oh, hello. I'm just getting help here. After the gremlins last night, I'm getting told whether I'm live or not. I'm hoping I'm not dead. I think I've got a pulse. Can everyone just verify whether I'm alive? Am I here? I feel as though I could be in. What was that episode, The Silence in the Library, when Donna ended up being kind of taken away? I feel as though I could be like that. Anyway, welcome one and all. I think I'm here. Are you here? Welcome to the fun, frank, fulsome forensic review, if YouTube lets us, of episode 3 of Ncuti season 2. We are the sense for you, talking sense, making sense of all the nonsense flying around about our favourite show. So you're in the right place. If you want detail, debate, passion, and fun, then you've found your home. So click on those notifications, give us a like and subscribe. I'm Brendan. Hello, your host will be a happy little Whovian. So what's been going on? Well, of course, today I couldn't help myself. If I'm not weeding in the garden, I'm doing another stream. So at midday today, we were talking about the 1.86 million overnight viewers for The Well. Oh, we've found 250,000 viewers since last week. Is this the start of a comeback? Is the corpse alive? However, I've got details to show you, and they're not as good as we say. It hasn't revived itself like Lazarus to week 1 yet of Robot Revolution. That's the first point we'll make. Second point we'll make is if you take a look at this. Now, on the left-hand side is last week's breakdown of the top shows on Saturday night. And on the right-hand side, thank you again to Gary Lee. Gary Lee, as you know, posts all these breakdowns. We're still wanting 5-minute breakdowns, but they're keeping them away from us. As he says here, some perspective is called for, bearing in mind that the FA Cup semi-final peaked at 4 million at 7 p.m. Let's remind ourselves, at 7 p.m., Doctor Who followed it quite quickly afterwards and gets 1.86 million. I mean, I'll reasonably say, if you look at the figures there, to go from Match of the Day Live 2.87 million down to 1.86 million, between one show finishing and one show starting, 1 million people desert the channel because of Doctor Who. This is one of the problems. But hallelujah, have you noticed the difference? This week, it beat the news. Hooray! This week, it beat Casualty. Hooray! Oh, and what? Oh, I tell you what, this is something for RTD on his birthday to celebrate. Doctor Who beat Blankety Blank. I mean, this is the level of it now. We've come down to being happy that we've beaten Blankety Blank. So I think when I get the panel on, we'll be discussing this in a lot more detail. Don't you worry, everybody. So, gosh, yes. Is that good news that you can see there? Or is that just laughable? So that will be discussed a little bit later. By the way, we started a new show on Thursdays as well. I was doing a show a day, Thursday Think Tank, when we get behind the Doctor Who topics of the week that are really germinating in people's heads. Has Doctor Who lost itself? Has it lost its spirit, its soul, a whole lot? Really good show. Check that one out. Our debating point for this week, though, could be, who's the new Mary Whitehouse who's haunting Doctor Who? Who's the new Puritan who's censoring Doctor Who? Why, of course, it's Russell T. Davies himself, with his strange priorities and decision-making. Did you see him on Unleashed last night? Did you? 1 minute he's saying, oh, we can't show a corpse doing this, and we can't show their face, and we don't want too much violence, and we really don't want it. And then the next minute, as Paul says here, RTD casually discussing how far they're dared to graphically portray the multiple deaths in last night's Doctor Who, while simultaneously pushing certain agendas and certain sexual jokes, which are seen as acceptable. He mentioned 6-year-olds, did RTD, and you think, wow. I used to be a teacher. Gosh, I'm amazed at his priorities. They fascinate me. Wow. So we may be talking about that tonight. You may want to talk about it too. It's your show. We have the 5 panel on. We're full tonight. We've got all the scores. But of course, we want to hear from you. And you know where we're going to start, don't you? We're going to start with burning issues when everybody comes on. And of course, RTD, since we're talking about the great man who likes to portray himself as the great risk taker. Oh, he's very daring, you know. He's a very brave broadcaster. He said, and it's the kind of people you should never do a sequel to. Midnight, of course. And it's a sequel no one ever expected. So that's where we went. Frankly, we're right to do that. Well, of course, he's telling himself he marks his own homework. So, of course, here we are. Brave showrunning, brave writing to do a sequel. I mean, nobody else has ever done a sequel. Stephen Moffat did plenty. Alien did plenty. But, you know, I just want to explain, and I want to get across to you, I'm a brave person. I'm very courageous. Right. Yeah. Okay. And of course, how courageous is it that we have your friends who are backing you up? It's a Fitzroy Tavern mob, isn't it? I mean, you know, Stephen Moffat straight in there yesterday. Don't go online. Don't listen to anyone. Don't read anything anywhere. Just brace yourself for a classic. Blink's long day may be over. Yeah. I do feel that Stephen Moffat's trying to overplay that one because it's in no doubt that Blink is still going to be seen as good. And then when somebody texted yesterday, The Well was excellent, but did anyone else feel that this setting, this premise, these characters could have easily sustained a 2-parter? Which I fully agree with. And Stephen Moffat joined in and said, perfectly paced, bloody brilliant, you know, back off. And you think, do you know what? You can't criticize. You can't. I mean, the lad on the right hasn't said anything bad. I think it's right. It's a good idea. If you've got a good idea, stretch it out, develop it. Isn't it called making drama? It's not about going, I've got an idea, but I need to be finished by 45 minutes because I need another one. I thought you craft drama. You structure it to create tension and suspense and engagement. So it surprises me when you see some of these comments. And of course, the Radio Times came to RTD's defense, saying that Doctor Who's The Well does a David Tennant episode justice by avoiding a terrible mistake. What could that terrible mistake be? Well, of course, he didn't. He kept it ambiguous. We never saw the monster, really. We thought we saw it. I freeze framed it a few times. I couldn't see it. You heard it maybe a little bit, and there was an element of laughter mentioned, but they're rewarding him for actually not explaining anything and not showing anything. So isn't that amazing? Oh, see, he's a courageous man. He's really good. Happy birthday, RTD, on your 62nd birthday. So yes, well done. Radio Times backing you, and the good old Stephen Moffat backing you. Oh, he's in the right corner. Remember tonight. Oh, it gets complicated, doesn't it? The Tombstone Totaliser. Last year it was the scores on the sarcophagus stores, and this year we've got the same thing going on. Those were the scores to beat from season 1, remember? Legend of Ruby Sunday, there were poor scores, but that's where we got to last year. And of course, last week, Lux got 58. Now, what does that number mean? It got 58 out of 150. It still beats Robot Revolution, which got Robot Revolution, I apologize, 82 out of 150, and Lux got 58. So what will happen with The Well this week? They're all locked in. The scores I've got, I will reveal them as we go through each criteria. So we're going to have some fun tonight. I don't think we're all going to agree. Do we ever? Of course, I played on Who Night last night when eventually the Gremlins let us play. We played our Broke Hack Bingo. And I don't know if you all agree with us, but that's how the sci-fi scorecard looked for The Well. Yes, the Doctor cried. Did you notice? That was a big, juicy tear, wasn't it? That was a big tear. We had the reveal, Mrs. Flood, and the reveal that it was midnight. Oh, did you notice? Shock horror. We had a bad man trope. Toxic masculine soldier. Terrible. I might have things to say about that, though. We had the song and dance routine in the TARDIS when they all cosplay. Yeah, we had the usual. RTD really thinks this is a light entertainment show nowadays. And isn't it funny when last year Bad Wolf in that interview said that Doctor Who in the 80s was a light entertainment pastiche? Wow. Eat your words, I tell you. Eat your words. So I think I've warmed us all up. I've warmed the panel up. Do you know what? I know my role now. I'm like some Whovian warm-up act. God help me. What's this all about? So, shall we get them on? Oh, they've been practicing all week with their dancing, you know, so I think I need to get them on. It'll be John first. You know, he likes to milk it. So here we go. Let's welcome the panelists who are going to give us the scores, their views, and some laughs along the way. So here we go. Here he is. There's John. Oh, he's got props this week.
It's the Angry Scotsman.
And who's next? We've got Michelle. There she is. Oh, them two have warmed up. And where is she? Queen of the Walk.
We need to chill.
And we've got Paul, who has this very strange dance sequence there. Oh, here we go. I knew it. Well, thanks, George, for being the warm-up act there. All right. Actually, after last week, I thought, yeah, we need to lie down. Should we go now? That's it. I've got the scores. Oh dear me! Zero Room thinks we're doing the love boat.
And now this video is going to be age restricted. Thank you, John.
No, listen. I feel I'm the Simon Cowell of this household. I had to give my husband his chance. Okay, so give him votes out of 10 later in the Tombstone tale. But we'll see how we go. Never fault me for not giving him his opportunity.
Yes, there you go. And boy, did he enjoy it. Oh well, good to see you all. I feel as though well, there has been a week in between. I feel as though I've just sat on this thing. So, I don't know, where do we start? Well, I have to say, folks, we start where I need to call you all to order. Yeah? Because, of course, the figures were 1.86 million overnights, and your predictions are coming. So, I got 1.67, so I don't win. John said 1.55. Paul said 1.3, and Michelle said 1.45. Rachel, the dance sequence is over.
Sorry, I think I might have got it right.
No, she's doing a celebratory dance.
No, obviously, being a very strict teacher, nobody got it right. No. You were 600,000 out, Rachel.
So
That's a
I was
lot.
closest.
I only get 1,000 on here.
This is not the Price is Right here in the US. Being close doesn't count.
So there you go. That was not bad. This is the panel who knows the mostest, and Rachel was on it. I was in second place, John in third place, Michelle in fourth place. But Paul, let's be honest, Paul did not like looks. I think that's fair to say, isn't it, Paul?
Very fair, yeah. And it spoiled itself. It spoiled itself, so no credit given.
There you go. So it obviously Paul was going to think of the ratings tanking because of last week. This week might be different. So we will do the scores and the predictions a little bit later. But I just wanted to call you all to order on that one. But you know where you'll be salivating at the mouth. Here we go, frothing to get started, because Episode 3, The Well, Season 2 of Ncuti, Our Burning Issues. Here we go. Okay, here we go. John, you're the first one. You're the first one. Oh, Paul, yes. I love this.
The dog's having a vote as well. You might
I
as
never
well.
have to keep my puppets under control. But John, first cab on the rank here. You wanted to talk to us about how this doctor is so doctorish.
Yeah, or not, as the case may be. This is the thing. Over the course of Doctor Who, as it started, when we've stressed as ourselves how important the Doctor's silhouette, a costume, has been. Now, we've come to accept the fact that this particular Doctor, the 15th, does not have a silhouette. He does not have a set costume. He is, in fact, a dedicated follower of high fashion and would not be out of place on a catwalk. But you know what? Even when it comes to wearing a spacesuit, it has to be tight and figure-hugging and exemplify all Ncuti's sticky-outy bits in order to make sure that we all understand how attractive and how masculine this particular incarnation of the Doctor is, to the extent that even his little bits of armour have to be removed once he gets past the initial stages, in order that we might sort of feast our eyes on his beautiful masculine frame. To the extent that the Doctor says at some point I think you got it up there, Brendan, to his companion, that your mum can whistle at my backside, my behind. You know what? Whatever this character is, it is not the Doctor. And that now is beginning to really, really grate on me. And that's coming from an angry Scotsman.
Oh, I know, but look at his behind. His mum might have liked it.
Well, you know what? I quite like it too. That's a lovely behind. I've seen a fair few male behinds in my time too. I don't deny that for one single solitary second. But that's not the point. The point is the character of the Doctor doesn't give them monkeys, not only for how he looks, but how other people thinks he looks. But this Doctor is obviously very vain. And that just isn't the Doctor. To even say those words, your mum will be able to whistle my backside, gets to a certain level of vanity that they've introduced to this character, which makes me wonder, is it a bit like the Pertwee thing in that he's not playing the Doctor, he's playing himself, and this really is Ncuti Gatwa and not the 15th Doctor?
Yeah, does anyone else want to come in on John's burning issue there about the Doctor being very undoctorish?
Well, it also applies that Belinda's mother is lustful after other men and is possibly in an unhappy marriage with her father.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that you punch a person out in a bar if they said that about the mother and the father. She hasn't even met them, implying that all women are lustful after him.
Rachel, what were your thoughts? Because obviously you gave Ncuti a long time last year before you cast your judgment, but now I think you're pretty scathing, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I'm still pretty fair when it comes down to it. I always will be. I won't be that scathing. But for me, probably by my definition, that it is scathing. He is a miscast. I don't know what's going on, but whatever he's presenting is too little, too late, in my opinion. We have seen some more Doctorish, and this is a stretch, more Doctorish moments from him, but the writing is not allowing him to go to the full potential that he can actually do, I would imagine. And I also think not looking at the past Doctors is not helping his situation. And by the way, that's also something that was true of Jodie Whittaker as well. She wasn't allowed to do that either. However, with Jodie, there were a lot of Doctorish sounding writing bits. So she had the moments there. It was just a miscast as well. And it's unfortunate, really, because he was good in the importance of being earnest. No matter how you think about the portrayal of what they did with the stage version of that adaptation, but
But Brendan, can I just nip in? I know Paul hasn't spoken yet, so forgive me.
That's quite right, John. It's okay.
It's just more than Everything you say is correct there, Rachel. Absolutely, but it's more than it's the words that the writer and showrunner are now putting into this man's mouth.
Babes.
I would, yeah, but that particular line really got to me because these are people who are supposed to who love the program, who grew up with the program, who know this program inside out. That line is so easily taken outable. You can define your doctor and make him a clothes source or a fashion model. You can make the doctor more 21st century with the honey babe stuff if that's what you want to do. But to put those particular words into his mouth, that your mother will wolf whistle, because that's what he means, which apparently we're not allowed to do anymore anyway, wolf whistle at my behind, totally and fundamentally misunderstands the character of the Doctor. I don't care what they say. And it's such an avoidable thing to say. And the fact that he says it proves that the showrunner, I think, is saying more about Ncuti Gatwa than he is about the Doctor.
And you can tell it's not the influence here of Sharma's writing, because Sharma, I don't think, barely wrote any of this.
It's interesting, isn't it? We probably will get to that as a burning issue soon. Paul, you may have seen in my preface that I referenced what RTD said in Unleashed last night when he was talking about the choices he makes about how graphic the deaths are and all the rest of it. And yet, as John's just rightly said, the dialogue is sexual. It's very superficial. It's very diva Doctor. Do you find that?
I didn't find it yesterday. I do agree that some of the idiosyncrasies mentioned are a little bit jolting sometimes, but that's usually taken in conjunction with a poor performance. I don't deem his performance this series to be poor. I think yesterday it was exemplary. I think there's been a steady improvement since the Christmas episode, albeit that I didn't like the Christmas episode. But these first 3 episodes, I've seen the Doctor in him, and I haven't had to look too hard. I agree. I'd rather he didn't say things like this. I don't think they add anything, but such is the quality of his performance that I didn't really notice them.
So why do we think? Sorry, Brendan. Why do we think those lines are there? If they don't add or take away, they only take away. Why are they inserted? Hypersexualization, yes. Or is it just the fact that the showrunner, the writer, whoever it is just appealing to this man's ego? My goodness, what a good look.
It's either that or he really fancies him.
Personally, I think this is probably what they all think about all the time. I'm wondering, is like, everything is hypersexualized. Is this all that their brain is in the gutter now? Is this a reflection of themselves now?
Well, this is it. The doctor used to be not Mr. Cool, used to be the outsider, used to be quirky and eccentric. I mean, that was part of it. Now he's center stage. He's the diva, very superficial, obsessed with what you wear. And I almost call it cosplay. Now, just to not to push back on John, but to test this area and to bring a bit more out. This is what one person said on Twitter yesterday. 15 cares about more than just saving lives, John. He cares about the emotional well-being of every individual he meets too. It's so beautiful and so strong in his Doctor. Why are you missing it? I mean, John, you've just got him so wrong.
I know it is, isn't it? You know, and he cares so well for that little poor woman trapped by herself that he let her go and released a being on the whole universe to torment them. So well done, 15th Doctor.
And of course, John, because John said he was a very undoctorish Doctor. I thought there were a couple of Doctor moments. We'll come to them later, but he is one of them, John. Wherever you are, stand behind me. There's bravery for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Stand behind me and buy my butt.
The trouble was, as I said last night, he says that, which is not a bad line for a Doctor to say. But the trouble is, when that female leader, Shayla, said that she would then do an action that was brave, he went, "Oh, all right, okay then. I've done my virtuous lines. I'm okay now."
Yeah, all right. Well, you go and do that, and then I'll just leave Belinda on the floor whilst I chase after you.
The other girl was a proven medic, though. The other girl was a medic as well, wasn't she? She was actually discussing some of the nuances of this future medicine with Belinda. So I think there was a bit of a context there.
Yeah, I still don't think that the Doctor should have run off, though.
I don't agree, but I see where you're coming from. I don't agree, though.
Well, there was another item of John's, his burning issues before. A few of them are shared after this. So on this one, it was the sign language, John.
Yeah, I find it hard to understand why, again, and this was a choice, the choice to insert a line which the drama could have continued without it, criticising Belinda, the nurse, for not knowing sign language. And the idea says it should be the law that you should know how to sign. It was that dig at current nurses who aren't able to sign. It's like current nurses who can't understand other languages, or people who use the service. I used, when I was a head teacher, I used the services all the time of interpreters to make sure that teachers and other staff were accessible to them if English was not the first language. And that's exactly the way it should be. But I wasn't going to criticise my staff for not being able to speak that language or sign that language, whatever it is. That's not their job. It just seemed an odd thing to do. But you know what? I guess it's a bit of a virtue thing. I wonder how many people at Bad Wolf can sign.
Oh, well, that's a classic. It's like we've got lots of DEI in front of the camera, but when it comes to the executive production team, they all look quite similar. It's the usual story. The other thing on the sign language was, of course, I just thought, okay, you've got a good actress, Rose Ellen Ellis, and she obviously advised them a little bit. Fair dues. Belle, be careful of her. Quite rightly, because he's safeguarding her. We didn't like how he ignored or neglected Millie in Rogue. So yeah, and then I can still lip read. Well, I hope you can, love, but that's not the point. Stop pulling people back. I mean, again, John, all these bits about bits of script and dialogue. Why is that bit in? I mean, he was not slighting the girl, Alice. He wasn't doing that. He was advising another one.
Absolutely. In other words, you can't say anything at all about someone in front of their face for fear of upsetting them. It's nonsense. He was just advising Belinda to be careful. That we don't know the full story regarding this character, but apparently because she's from the disabled community, that was he trod over the line there. I don't get it. I really don't get it at all. But then again, I don't live in their world.
I mean, Michelle, when I did the Who Night stream last night, there were some people in the thread and they said, oh, no, I really loved that moment. I loved the Doctor's signing to her. And that was lovely. And that sort of thing. Obviously, that's not the point John's making. It's a separate one, isn't it? But where do you stand on it, Michelle?
I have no problems with the character. This is not the first time they've had a death character on Doctor Who, and I think it's beautiful that the Doctor did know how to sign, because that was something that seemed very Doctorish, that he would know how to communicate. My thing is like, why are they criticizing Belinda for not knowing sign language when they're living in a world that has a machine that you can just push a button and the words come across on screen? Or I'm sure they could also have like a person signing, like AI or something. So the idea of like, well, you don't know how to sign language, how dare you? Well, no one else did either. They all pushed their little buttons on and they had the wonderful transport,
Yeah.
So why is it
that's odd. Now, if they lived in the world where everybody knew sign language and they didn't, that would be wait a minute, you're not from our world. But we've already got the programs to help communicate in this world.
I mean, that's the point. Technology makes people lazy in lots of different ways, and that might have been one of them in the future.
I was thinking like maybe sign language by then may have been completely, we're thousands of years in the future, maybe completely gone because everybody can just and have AI come and say what you're saying.
I mean, Paul, Rachel, do you find this was, I mean, every week I keep thinking, what's the message? What's this? What's that? I've got my issues coming up, but did you have anything to contribute on sign language?
It's not the worst. It's not the worst message they could have given. I don't altogether approve of virtue signaling. I don't think it leads to a good place. It leads to criticism of people who don't deserve it. But rather than sort of immigrants trying to supplant people from their own countries, or people who would aspire to be a biological sex and want all that that entails, at least these are people who are naturally disadvantaged, who might benefit perhaps from more people being able to seamlessly communicate with them. So on that basis, it's not the worst message that they could have put across. And I didn't find that it took me out of the episode. I didn't get annoyed by it as much as I have for previous messages of the nature I've just described.
Yeah. Rachel?
Yeah. I've got no issue with the Doctor signing. I have no issues or qualms about that whatsoever. I don't like the virtue signaling of it being made in law. I do think that it is something, though. He is right, that it's something that perhaps we could all learn. What was that noise?
All right.
Was that me? Okay. I just malfunctioned.
I know that too.
She just turned into a doll like everybody.
Yeah, no,
Paul's dog.
Okay, right. So I just think it's something that can be taught as part of the school curricula, because if you look up taking sign language lessons here in the UK, they are so expensive. If you want to learn how to communicate with BSL or SSE or Makaton, and so he's not wrong, but it doesn't need to be law. I can sign some BSL. I know mostly Makaton, and I know people that know SSE. So
the last thing I want as a British taxpayer is RTD to start giving ideas for having to increase the wage of everybody because of their training on this, that, and the other, because he wants to make an inclusive message in a program that's only on the air for 45 minutes.
I just think it would be nice that it would be taught in schools, because it's just so expensive.
Well, yeah.
And I do know a lot of people who would like to be able to sign.
He had the presence of mind, though. He had the presence of...
Oh, hold on. There seems to be a bit of overlap. Go on, Paul.
He had the presence of mind to make the message and the story one and the same, so he could deliver on both. And I think that matters, and I think it was a good decision. Like I say, it didn't strike me as being too overt, and it was relevant. I found it easy to tolerate.
The only thing that I wish that they had done more consistently is kept the signing going throughout, rather than just those little bits.
Just for the avoidance of doubt, Brendan, I am absolutely quite happy with signing taking place in Doctor. That wasn't the point of my burning issue. The burning issue is the fact that they introduced a 21st century point about nurses, as far as I was concerned, which Belinda happened to agree with, the fact that they were not doing the job properly by not knowing sign. That was the point that I think that this production team overstepped themselves. Come the day that everybody in the production team of Doctor Who Bad Wolf can sign, I'll take lessons from them then.
Yeah. Right. Well, we've got other burning issues, so we'll keep going. This one is shared by Rachel and Michelle, which is the sequel to Midnight, whether that's appropriate, whether it worked. So we have our two sacrifices on screen here. Neither of them look like the Doctor. In both episodes, the Doctor's so lucky that somebody else decides they just want to give their life away. Shocking, really. But anyway, Michelle, you're not happy, are you?
Not necessarily not happy, but it's like, was it needed? That's what I'm looking at this era. Was it needed? That when was Midnight? 15 years ago?
Yeah.
So it kind of seems to me that RTD1 is a little too attached. RTD2, is too attached to RTD1. And if we're supposed to be bringing in new people and bringing it around the world, it just seems a little odd that he keeps having throwbacks to 15-year-old episodes that people may not be familiar with or have been watching a long while. It just seems like he's not confident in his own abilities to move forward. So he's constantly going back to the past, which just seems, again, it shows a writer out of ideas. And I think it could have worked perfectly as a base under siege, the classic Doctor Who trope, and it didn't have to be the creature from Midnight.
Okay, Rachel?
Yeah, pretty much what Michelle said. And it doesn't, this story didn't need to be unbottled. Once you start unbottling, how far do you take it? it gets to the point where like limbs start falling off and it becomes almost comical in many respects. And I do feel like it was added in as an afterthought as well.
Now, I know on my stream last night, Rachel, you saw
Shame.
me show this theory about the split. Yeah. And it looked as though you seemed quite happy about that. You liked that as an idea.
I can't remember what it was now.
It was so I've got here that it's part of a trilogy. You've got Midnight, then The Well, then Wild Bill Yonder. At the end of The Well, it says there's 4 life forms in that airlock when there's only 3 people, but we know the life form is attached to Belinda. And then it talks about the entity discovered the concept of life form splitting into 2 from the 15's memories of by generation.
That's right, because it implies that Shea takes down the life form. But then it also implies that that life form is also on the ship, wherever it is that they are, right? Because it escaped. Because I made a mistake yesterday when I was watching it. I thought it said that there was only allowed to be 6 people in the area that they were, and that there was 4 people left. I didn't realize it was the escape pod that was maximum of 6 people. I didn't realize that until much later. I was looking after my niece, so I was slightly distracted.
Well, it's like I still missed a few lines. John reminded me of, and I'd watched it twice. Paul, you look as though you're wanting desperately to come in here on this.
They're not desperately, but the point I'd like to make is that ending was purposefully open. It was ambiguous. There were 2 options, really. One was that the creature was either vanquished or incapacitated when Shayla made her sacrifice. But the other one is that the thing that really came back up from that planet was preconception, suggestibility, paranoia. There might not have been anything there. There's nothing to say that it actually escaped. So it could be either way. Lots of sort of shows in the past that I grew up watching have left things open like that. So it's not necessary that the thing escaped at all. It's just a suggestion of it. And that's what the profound thread running through this story is. It's about how things can be suggested to people, how they react, how they overreact. So there's not necessarily anything to say that creature escaped at all. I think it was open. I think it's a binary sort of way of looking at it.
Wasn't the last shot, John, the very last shot, because I had the subtitles on the second time to pick up pieces, and the very last shot before the credits was a kind of noise that the monster was making on that
whisper. Like a whisper. I think it was more than a suggestion. I think we were meant to believe as an audience that this thing had escaped at the same time as the girl, the I don't know the actress's name, but the deaf woman, just shortly after she'd been given leave to go, that humanity being left, or whatever this is, if it's not humanity, to cope with this creature. So I think it was a bit more than suggestion. I think we were meant to believe that this thing had escaped, and therefore there's room for it to return again, which I'm not unhappy about. I can agree with what Michelle says about it being a burning issue, and Russell Davies 2 being a bit too reliant on Russell Davies 1, and when he shouldn't be, because it's a whole new audience he's trying to attract. But I also think this Russell Davies 2 comes after the Moffat era, and he's seen how clever Moffat can be in terms of the things he does. And he's attempting to do that himself as well now, to prove that he's not just, if you like, a sort of a writer of bog standard adventure yarns. He can be smart and clever as Moffat can as well. I thought the Midnight Creature first time round was more effective in its representation, how it was presented, than it was this, which was a bit too many special effects and bangs and flashes, and tied in too much to the idea of midnight, this idea of, that idea of the hands pointing forward to 12,
I found it fascinating that the Radio Times was justifying this. He avoided a terrible mistake. He kept it ambiguous. I always thought the danger with a secret, the danger with this, because Rtd'S very good at being ambiguous. He never explains any of his plot anymore. So I found it fascinating.
He doesn't know himself.
If it is linked to Midnight and it's the same creature, you can have a moot point whether it's actually technically a sequel. But the thing is, what you can say is, after now having 2 episodes about these creatures, we haven't learned a damn thing really about them. How far can he keep doing that?
Yeah. I agree, and the two different MOs completely. The MO first time round is completely different from what happens this time round. All we seem to know is that this is a malevolent creature that delights in killing and people's pain and suffering and upsetting. That we do understand, but other than that, no. We never got a hint of why it does this. What? Apart from wanting to get out and continue to do this.
We
What
don't
is
need
it?
to. We don't need one. It's,
Well, I would like to know because that's
fair enough. That's fair enough. But
I think we don't need
the mystery has substance as well.
No, we don't need to. We don't need to. But what we do need to know is for the writer, at the very least, to have had that thought through in his head, so that we can at least speculate. Because
I think he's given us much about which to speculate. He's given us much about which to speculate.
Hold on a second. Just let me finish the point.
Okay.
Ultimately, everything exists for a reason. Everything. So I would like to think that when Russell Davies created this creature, it exists for a reason, it has a purpose, it has a function, it has an MO in life, whatever it is. I don't think he's done that. I think he had a one-off in Midnight, decided to reuse it again, change its MO to be Moffat-esque, but he doesn't really know why this creature wants to get out into the wide open and do its shtick.
Is it possible that they're bringing the character back in the next story?
At a deeper level, I think it was a similar MO, because it made us expect things, or it made the people with whom it interacted expect things, and then it subverted those expectations. Certainly, it did in Midnight, and there were indications that it was doing the same in yesterday's episode. I think it likes to toy. Let me finish. I think it likes to toy with people. I think it likes to toy with people with whom it interacts. And I think that gives it some kind of energy, perhaps, or it gives it a purpose. So that's how I interpret it. I interpret it that way in Midnight, and I interpret it that way here. And I think it's a perfectly valid theme for Doctor Who. I think it's quite a novel one.
And therefore, you would expect come the second time it's appeared, for that to be a bit more obvious. I don't think the writers thought this through at all.
I don't agree.
Rachel, you said, Rachel, you thought this was a late addition to the script, and I think if it was, that probably explains why there's no real development in what this creature is, what its function, what its purpose is. Absolutely, Paul, you're absolutely right to have your view there, but I think
that's just different opinions.
I think the writer should be allowing us, giving us a little bit more clues to make that mind up. I think we're all having to scrabble for that.
Well,
my
obviously,
concern.
Go on, Rachel. Go on, Rachel.
Sorry. I'll just say this quickly. My concern is, yes, I feel like they added it in as an afterthought. It does play on the paranoia, so it ties in with what it did originally. My concern is now, though, that we see in the trailer when we have Ruby, something is behind her back. Could it be that?
I'm intrigued. I said it in the stream last night, didn't I? That this Mrs. Flood appearing at the end, and after Lux, he just used up all his bi-generation energy. So you're thinking, right, so he's weaker, ready for episode 8. He's obviously released a monster now that could come back in episode 8. And I just to add that I'm assuming that every episode is going to accumulate another weakness or flaw or danger. So in the end, Mrs. Flood, if she is the masterpiece behind all this, or there's somebody else, they've got all their chess pieces in place to kill him, to regenerate him. So I'm just wondering if that's the case,
They're
or trapping him.
Leading up to a regeneration, I think.
Oh, let's hope so.
Yeah.
Obviously, burning issue wise, here's one quickie from me, and I don't know how you manage this, folks, but I was at a football match yesterday, but just like everybody, you've got shopping, or you're out with family, or you're doing something on a Saturday, and RTD said in the Doctor Who Monthly, there's a killer reveal in episode 3. Actually, I was looking for it. I wasn't quite sure if I saw it. He said there's a killer reveal. Avoid online. Avoid everything. That's not possible for everybody. I'm checking texts with friends and various things. And, I'm at the match. And if I have to avoid all day something like this, I think it's asking a lot in 2025 of some people. I would argue, therefore, why can't it just land at 8 o'clock at night or 7 p.m. on terrestrial, and we don't do this nonsense. White Lotus doesn't do this.
Yeah, I don't like it releasing at 8 a.m. It does screw up my day. You know, because I'd rather watch it in the evening and then write my review ready for today instead of having it released on a Saturday. You know, I could still do it for today, but you know, algorithms, you know what they're like.
And you want to enjoy it. I ended up watching Doctor Who at about 8:30 in the morning with a Weetabix. That is not how I want to enjoy Doctor Who.
Well, yeah, I'm watching Doctor Who and I'm babysitting. I've got a yeah. Well, she's not that young; she can occupy herself. But that's not the point. It's Auntie Rachel, Auntie Rachel, Auntie Rachel, Auntie Rachel. So try and process anything. You know, it's a wonder I managed to make a review yesterday.
So, John, how did you? Do you avoid this quite easily?
Yes, no. I don't pay great attention to social media anyway. I do a little bit, and that's it. So no, we watched it a bit earlier. So thanks to iPlayer, we were able to watch it earlier because 7:30 didn't suit us last night. But I understand for the purposes of other people who can't take a device out of their hands, why it might be difficult for them to do that. But the thing I'm still waiting to know what the great reveal was. Is the great reveal that Creatures from Midnight? Is that the great reveal? The fact that Mrs. Floyd had a character other than the one she's been portraying. I would just like that explained to me. But then again, there's a whole lot this writer's done up to and including the stuff I mentioned 5 minutes ago when Paul and I were discussing the purpose behind this creature. The whole lot that he says he's explaining, which to my mind he isn't.
I mean, that's why. I mean, there's my thumbnail. I prepared it yesterday. What do we make of the killer reveal?
It's not much of a killer reveal, though, is it? If it was a sequel to Midnight. Well,
yeah. So, you know, the hype is ridiculous. But Paul, have you managed to? This is like that Likely Lads sitcom episode when they tried to avoid the football results. Did you manage quite easily to avoid it yesterday?
What do you mean, the episode or the reveal?
Until you wanted to watch it, because the last thing is none of us want a spoiler before you're sitting down to watch it. You know,
it was too implicit, wasn't it, that it was going to be a sequel to Midnight. Incidentally, I'm also in the camp that Midnight is one and done, and it didn't need a sequel. I felt, however, that the entity was added to, but the mystery wasn't subtracted. I felt that it added mystery and it added a little bit of extra nuance. And I also feel that that the methodologies were the same. That it was like I said, it was suggesting things. It was making people think that they were seeing patterns and understanding it and toying with them. So I liked it for that reason. Whether or not even now I would choose to have a sequel to Midnight, I'm undecided. So I am with you on that regard. It wasn't necessary. It could have been with a little bit of tweaking. It probably could have been as excellent a story, but more self-contained and more unique.
Tweaking. Well, we all know from the writer's tale he used to do, 2,000 redrafts, so maybe he should have done an extra one. But one thing it's a little burning issue. It's like a little match that's just a light. But I am really a bit peeved about, are we really going to watch Doctor Who every week and he does a little cosplay moment with the music blasting?
Yeah,
and
of course, Brendan.
Doctor Who does Mr. Ben. Oh, yeah. How can I dress up? And you've seen his dialogue, he loves it. This is the good bit. Excuse me, you have lived. You've been everywhere in the universe. You're well-traveled. And, he's got this wanderlust. Yeah, this is the good bit. We dress up. And you're going, oh, get over yourself. Travel is not about and it's cultural appropriation, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. But don't you think, Brendan, this goes back to the point that we were talking about at the start regarding this being about not the Doctor, but Russell Davies writing for Ncuti Gatwa and what he perceives this man to be. So it's not that Ncuti Gatwa has become the Doctor, but the Doctor has become Ncuti Gatwa.
Oh yeah. Anybody else find this is a bit irritating?
And also he comes out doing like Zoolander, like pew 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 pew. That's like so immature. I thought we were saying that we didn't want the doctor to have a gun, or against violence, and to have him coming out there doing like I'm Zoolander, do.
Michelle, don't. You're doing the same as Rachel before. You don't point out all the inconsistencies of RTD because we'll be here all night. I mean,
I'll bring Kig out. We'll get caught.
I know. I saw that, and I think I had the shot earlier. He did do the gun thing, and I thought,
yeah, you did. Yeah, I saw that. I was watching that last night. I'm like, that's immature. This is not a mature doctor who's been around for millennia. How many thousands of years? This is the man that once walked in eternity.
yeah.
And now we're playing, like Zoolander.
There's one line in it where he says, what was it? Like my old head or something along those lines.
Old head.
And I'm thinking, what, this doctor? Like if that line had come from Matt Smith, I would have believed that. And Matt Smith was and Matt Smith was young.
Yeah, because it hits off what they're trying to do elsewhere with the character. It's almost as if they think, oh, wait a minute, the doctor's thousands of years old and he's been around for ages, so we better say this line to remind people of that fact. Yeah, where everywhere else he's honey and babes and look at my butt all over the place.
We don't get that impression at all with this incarnation of the Doctor.
No, I think the last two doctors convinced us that they were old was Capaldi and Smith. That was
obviously the thread.
Yeah, I never got that with Whittaker either. She never had that feeling of being.
No, same. But at least she sounded kind of intelligent.
She was too busy trying to be wacky.
Well, I'll try and bring. I'll try and bring a bit of the thread in. Bless them, they're typing away, and I'm just trying to bring a bit of them in. Peter Harrington, why was it the exact clothing what they needed? He did check to see where they were. I mean, that's never happened in Doctor Who before, as far as I can remember. Why? I don't like that neatness.
Isn't it about a man who has a telepathic traveling machine? Is it too much of a reach that the TARDIS could sometimes supply the right clothes?
Never has before.
Doesn't matter. There's lots of never has before. It happened over the past few years. Davros had never happened before he was introduced in 1975, but it was seamless.
He's got legs as well, by the way.
Beg your pardon?
Hold on. I'll pretend I'm the chair. Paul, I just I just want to say for a second, I mean, I thought the beauty of drama was, and especially the Doctor Who drama, was the TARDIS is bust. He doesn't know how to fly it properly half the time. That's the beauty of it, isn't it? I don't want him to be able to land pitch perfect every time. That I don't like that in New Who. I loved it when he didn't quite know where he was going. I granted, City of Death, he suddenly knew how to work the TARDIS again, but I quite like it when he lands, he doesn't know where he is and all the rest of it.
He didn't know where he was going this time, did he, really? I mean, he's trying to get her home, and he keeps getting bounced along different time and space tracks, as far as I can gather. So my impression is that the TARDIS realizes this, given its telepathy, and it provided the right clothes. It's not much of a stretch for me, I'll be honest with you. I don't see that as a disjoint in terms of continuity or anything like that.
It's just I don't want Doctor
Who. I don't understand the fixation with it, to be quite honest.
I'll explain it to you then. It's quite simple. Right. Here we go then. Well, Paul, let me,
I am.
Doctor Who doing cosplay, I think, is not sci-fi. It's baby. It's infantilization. That's my point.
Okay, I see it as variety. I see this as variety, and I find it quite refreshing. I'm not on board with all of Gatwa's sayings, and I'm not on board with the way that he does sexualize things sometimes. Unless you let me finish, let me make my point. But I see this as variety. I quite like the fact. That they go in through one door and out of another one. I quite like it. I can't fully explain why, but I find it pleasing. It was a nice contrasting prelude to the seriousness. I think I saw Mr. Squinty make this point, and I agree. It's a nice contrasting prelude to what was a deep, dark, and serious episode.
Why? I mean, all I'm saying is you're allowed that opinion. What I'm trying to work out is when we are all kind of well-blooded in Doctor Who, and we know that Doctor Who, that works, that does. And, I see the dialogue, I see the costumes, I see the canon being broken or changed. I see this, I see that. And when I add it together and then I get that kind of, not many people like the music at the beginning in the TARDIS when it was all that kind of lightness again. Robot Revolution started with the lightness again. And this light touch, because we have to do light entertainment because we're against Anton Deck. I just keep thinking, for God's sake, when do we do Doctor Who? Philip Hinchcliffe must be having a heart attack. Gothic horror, you're having a laugh.
I just don't see it like that. Like I said, I think there was a nice contrast in that knockabout first few minutes, and then it went into a really dark episode, a really serious episode, which just didn't let go of me for the rest of the 40 minutes.
That then also did messaging as well. It was only 47 minutes long. It had virtue signaling, messaging, a dance routine. It had let's play cosplay. I mean, for God's sake, is there any
the messaging was congruent. One of the central characters was a deaf person, so the messaging was congruent.
It wasn't. It made no sense at all. It made no sense at all. You had a toxic masculine soldier, Code Red, and of course that Code Red.
I don't think you did. I don't think there was toxic masculine soldier. I don't understand where you get that from.
Well, hold on, because I'm trying to finish the sentence. I normally justify things when I get to finish. So basically, Code Red, masculine soldier challenging a female boss. I could tell in the script that's, very nasty, and it linked with our Robot Revolution toxic masculinity. The main toxic masculinity I saw was a male lead called the Doctor ignoring the female commander and getting her in the end to be torn to actually kill herself because that monster got off the planet. He, a male, ignored her. And of course, these twisted contortions of virtue signaling messaging just blew up in the face of RTD because he couldn't see the consistency.
Okay, I didn't see it like that at all. I didn't see the male as toxic. I felt that he felt that mutiny was necessary. I felt that he felt that control was being lost and he had to step in. He felt that his troops were being threatened. It wasn't toxicity at all. It was just a sense of duty.
I didn't see it as toxic masculinity at all either. Actually, I would say that he was just trying to fulfill a sense of duty, and at that moment in time, there was paranoia going on. They were all scared, so he just took charge. They paid the price for it.
Let me just define. Everybody else likes to finish their sentence if they're interrupted. I'll just say this because I don't like words put in my mouth. Let me just say very clearly to define things rather than people put words in my mouth that I didn't say in the word. The toxic masculinity, I will always judge RTD by his season. That's what a Doctor Who fan does. Only 2 weeks ago, he was waffling on about toxic masculinity. This week, we had the director, a very good director, focusing on us seeing the faces of the Doctor and Belinda, not like that Cassio, not like the way he was behaving, and then make it a dramatic moment that he challenged the female boss. And I'm not supposed to think that was another version of toxic masculinity being presented by RTD in the script. Over to you, John.
Yeah, and forgive me, it's just nice for once not to be the source of all the grief and the aggro. So it's great to get a little step back there. Yeah, I two things, if I may. I agree with you, Brendan. I did think it was, and because he could have put those words into somebody else's, another character's mouth, but he didn't. He put them into that soldier. So it wasn't a female soldier. It was a male, and that. I've been going and going for that. But more importantly, if I can take you back to your initial point about the clothing, where we started all of this, I'm going to be very fair to them, and given the fact that we know who appeared at the end of this, Mrs. Flood, and seemed to have a bigger role in this. Perhaps the role of the clothing was part of a Machiavellian plan, that there's a lot more going on here than we know. So that's to be kind to them about that particular point. But if that turns out not to be the case, then yes, again, and this is twice in the one stream, I'm going to agree with you, because that's not what the Doctor does. You know what I mean? The Doctor doesn't have the exact match for the exact moment at the exact time. And if he suddenly does now, then yet again, it's not Doctor Who.
Well, Paul Mabley is obviously thinking there's toxic masculinity flying in this panel. No, but we could get ourselves very meta.
Not
So,
just staying where it belongs.
Can I just say something about?
Can I
just say something about Cassio? At the end, he was credited by the people. When they were sort of giving them posthumous honors, Cassio was credited by them because they said he did his best. It was acknowledged that he was just trying to do what was right for the entire people, not just just the Doctor or anybody else, but he was trying to protect everybody. And that's the impression I got. I didn't see a semblance of toxicity from him, and I don't understand your idea that there was. I really don't.
Well, you don't see it. I do.
That's fine. That's fine.
I think I find it more interesting that there were more females that survived in that situation.
Where were the males? I mean, God, they were kind of marginal, peripheral. It seemed to me.
Brendan, at first I didn't see the toxic masculinity, but I think you bring up a really good point here, because my thing that I was noticing is that Cassio, he's raising concerns that this guy has popped up out of the middle of nowhere, doesn't know anything, and is now being, given authority when the current iteration of the Doctor isn't even written to create respect, that he knows what's going on. He doesn't have the necessary gravitas. So that would be a natural question to say, why are you listening to this dude who just called me honey? First off,
and Michelle, this is something that they've done a lot throughout Doctor Who. They've also done it in Classic as well. You see that happen when the Doctor comes in and takes authority, and in Classic, and it gets shut down in many respects like that as well.
He does, but that's always part of the initial episode 2 to 3, drama. But the Doctor proves himself by the end to get the respect.
Well,
I'm not seeing the current Doctor getting the respect. Yeah. I mean, watch one of my favorites from the Fifth Doctor era is Frontios. You have characters in there that are toxic male, but the Doctor proves himself that he knows what he's doing, and maybe they should trust the stranger.
I think Michelle's right in terms of in reference to Classic Who. If you think back to a story you mentioned, Brendan, City of Death, where the Count, the Scaros, the first Doctor, my dear, nobody could be as stupid as he seems. The Doctor uses that, people's perception of him, as a means of getting under their skin and getting control of the situation. So he'll be ignored, and meantime he's working things out and getting to the bottom of things. What this incarnation of the Doctor with the honey and babes thing is just trying to be right on and trendy and friendly with everybody and all the rest of it. It is not part of a greater ploy of the Doctor's, whether he does that through playing a recorder, offering jelly babies, or just acting the fool. This is a Doctor who just has affectations for having affectations. Sick.
Yeah. I mean, Steve Zayas here, doesn't agree totally, and that's the point. There's a whole spectrum of opinion. But the fact he was kind of quick to overrule his female leader could be seen as toxic. There was a build-up to it. He hadn't been happy with her decisions for a few minutes, if you remember. He was not happy with her at all. But last. The last thing is on the burning issues, just to give everybody more of a concise opinion before we really get into the ratings, is we've got fresh blood. And we've got fresh writers. Pete Matisse, of course, has done more, and he's got his spin-off as well. Rachel, you did have a point to make about Sharma, didn't you? An input.
Yeah, her input, right. But just as I'm just going to preface this. I haven't watched any of the making of this story. So when I learned that my theory was correct, I was quite surprised. I don't think she had a lot of input over this script. The majority of this script screams Russell T Davies nearly all the way through it. I think her contributions were probably more suggestions and more of the chatty soapy moments that we got rather than the sci-fi elements.
Can I ask you
another? I don't feel that she had a lot of input.
My concern, and I've got two quotations to show you before we move on, but my concern is she's come from selected from a writer's workshop.
Mm-hmm.
He's a mentor. Mentors are hard to question.
Yes.
And edit. And it's a lovely position for him to be in. I mean, it's lovely to reach out to new writers. I don't knock that. but it puts him in a position of power as well and influence.
Yes,
And of
yes,
course
you can mold them to
yes, and
your
Midnight
way.
is his story. So if he suddenly says you can link it to Midnight, I mean, she's not going to have much say there, is she?
No, no, and
And that's not fair to her. So she can develop
oh no, I was just reading your comment in the chat, and I was just about to say I agree with your comment.
It's just unfair to her because wherever she is in her writing craft, she needs to develop her own voice. And the mentorship is trying to stand back and say, you know, you got a plot hole here. Let's think about it a little bit. You know, and so it's not really fair that he gave her one. It's like, here, write my sequel, please.
I mean,
Exactly.
Rachel, as you come back on it, Rachel, there was that moment when I almost cheered. You know, when he said about he wasn't liking the look, and he said "babes" to Cassio.
Yeah.
And then Cassio said, "That's not appropriate way to talk to me." And I thought, yes, and I thought actually Sharma might have said to RTD, "This is not how people talk. Throw it back."
I noticed that there was a lot less of the babes and the Huns in this story, and I wondered if that was part of Sharma's input. Pull it back. So
this was
maybe.
interesting. Yeah, this was interesting. She's chosen to be a Doctor Who writer, John. If you get the chance to write an episode of Doctor Who set in the past, where and when would you like to set it? I mean, gosh, when you're a sci-fi writer, you will have some fascinating thoughts, won't you? She says 60s England because her grandparents came from Jamaica then. I loved hearing stories about that time. I loved how fun the swinging 60s seemed to be. John, what happened to Polly? What happened to 1963 to 69? I think it was a program called Doctor Who. Does this writer know that we've done it already?
No, because life only begins. Either life began in 2005 and the show came back, or 2 years ago when he did for the second time. I don't know. I have no idea. I only understand that this writer that the previous pedigree was writing for Hollyoaks, a program I've never watched, but I understand to be bubblegum soap and not amongst the best of the bubblegum soap. So to get the gig on Doctor Who seems to be quite the jump from nursery slopes to Doctor Who. But I presume that harks back to what you were talking about earlier on, the fact that she can therefore be molded while at the same time we're being told we're developing new talent. It's still, I mean, I don't know how much of this she wrote, how much she didn't write, I don't know. But yet certainly had all the hallmarks of a Russell Davies episode, including the Honey and Babes.
Yeah.
I think during season 4, he wanted to tie in with what John's saying, he wanted to recruit somebody called Paul Abbott, who I believe was the producer and writer of Shameless. So I suspect he's long held this desire to sort of incorporate soaps and sci-fi.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably true.
Well, this is also the problem where they tell you writers write what you know about. And this is all she knows about is from her family history. Versus having writers like think outside the box. Do you think like science fiction? Are we writing what we know about? Do we really know what it's going to be like in 4,000 years? No, you let your imagination kind of take forward. And this is now they tell them, just write what you know about it. Everything has to be
Exactly. And RTD says the same. Canal Street, Manchester, gay life. And you think, for God's sake, there is more out there, mate.
And if she's being mentored, she really needs more input than what she had.
Yeah. How did writing for Doctor Who come about? Because we're all intrigued. We're all Doctor Who fans. The phone is there, RTD, if you want to phone me up. We've all written scripts. We've all thought about it, especially when Andrew Smith wrote Full Circle, and we all thought, how did he get that?
Andrew Smith used to live just down the road from me. There you go.
Well, we all did, didn't we? We said to John, we thought, how did he get that? He's only young, that sort of thing. And of course, this is the answer, John, Michelle, Rachel, and Paul. This is what happens in 2025 in this highly competitive market. My agent ran me, says Sharma, and said that Russell had read your work and scripts. Now, on other stuff, he wants to meet up and have a chat. The chat was incredible. I really enjoyed it. He also gave me advice on my script that he read, which was really nice of him. Then at the end of the chat, he told me there and then he wanted me on the show. No Doctor Who hinterland. No, what was interesting? There's more to this, but basically, she said her agent hadn't approached Doctor Who or the BBC or anything,
and it was like, it's not her remit.
No, But the sci-fi writers out there, it's just that, as I think we're starting to say, that I think you said it, Paul. We suspect he's been wanting to link soap opera with sci-fi for a long time, to the point where I don't see much sci-fi. That's my worry.
Yeah.
They need to, like, there's Big Finish writers out there. There's Big Finish stories they can adapt. I just listened to Genesis of the Cyberman done by Big Finish, and it was incredible. It's one of the best Big Finish stories I've heard in a
My
long
biggest
time.
fear at the moment, Michelle, is they're going to try and rewrite Bang Bang a Boom in a few weeks with the Eurovision one.
I'm glad you took that previous photograph off, Brendan. I was very nearly going to whistle at the doctor there.
Oh yes, yes.
I know. To take it off, I might feel the need to whistle.
I'm pleased. My mum's not here, thank God. Yes. Obviously now we're going to do a bit more dancing. No, here we go. It's our Play Your Cards Right ratings watcher. Here we go. Okay, play your cards. Right, here we go. So, our ratings, Roger, and to give you a real chance to talk about this now. So, it was 1.86, just to remind you. That's how it's tracked over the last 3 episodes. It has not regained itself. Whether anybody's got thoughts on that. And I just wanted to remind everybody, I'll go big screen for a second. So, basically, since season 1 started, you've got the overnights, the 7 days, the consolidated, the audience appreciation figures, the change per episode, whether it goes up or down. You'll notice it's only ever gone up 3 times, twice in season 1, once so far this year. Whether they're big or small leaps, the point I wanted to make to the panel, and then I'll shut my face, is since Space Babies, when you got 2.6 million viewers, whether the did well or not, we're up to 1.86. We've lost 28.5% of the audience that we had when Space Babies was on. That's a lot. Yeah. I mean, you can't say it's the weather. You can't say it's a bank holiday. You can't give me, there was the football. Oh, there was this. 28% of the audience. I mean, wow.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll nip in then. Yeah. And that's effectively 1 in 4, almost 1 in 3 people I've decided to walk away from this because they just don't like what they see. I think now we've entered the territory where we're almost hardcore. You know, there's people who will watch this program no matter what. I don't know how much further it can fall without people who will just, no matter what's on the other side, will always have BBC One on. There was always a notion that there was a certain degree of the population that BBC One could be showing the test card and it would still get ratings because people don't shift off of BBC One, a certain demographic, if you like. So we may well need to have reached almost where the programme will fall no further for that sort of slot on a Saturday night. If they moved it to a Sunday morning or whatever it is, then certainly. But for that time on a Sunday, people wouldn't necessarily watch ITV offerings or onto BBC Two. So we've hit that. But the fact still remains that this is a programme which, even in this multi-screen streaming age, can achieve almost 1 million more than that at roughly the same time of year. Those people are out there, they're choosing not to watch. It's a failure.
Garbage here, Jodie Whittaker's first episode, The Woman Who Fell to Earth, was watched by 8.2 million viewers. The episode peaked at 9 million, garnered 40% audience share. We can all find facts, can't we? Like John's saying, there's different ways you can look at this. For example, Match of the Day, on just before Doctor Who, had 1 million more, and plus, actually. Joy to the World on Christmas Day. You know, I've done the figures. Rachel's done the figures on hers. The 5-minute breakdowns are stunning. 4 million people arrived when Doctor Who got off the air to watch Wallace and Gromit. The viewers are there. No excuses.
Because this is just it's more than just people who don't want to watch Doctor Who, Brendan. Now, this is there are people who want to watch Doctor Who, but don't want to watch this Doctor Who. They just don't want to watch this iteration of Doctor Who. They are tuned out. So the program is always salvageable. Doctor Who can always come back. It's always done that with somebody finding a new and effective way of doing it. But at the moment, we're not there yet. But unfortunately for Doctor Who, we're now almost at a decade of what people being thoroughly, to use a Glasgow word, scunnered with the way Doctor Who's produced, written, directed, and with the casting choices for the Doctor being wrong. So this may well be long-term damage to the brand.
Anthony Parkinson here says the real damning indictment. God, there's so many figures, and I'll go big screen for a second so you can all see it. But basically, yes, you've got Robot Revolution went from overnight's 2.05 to we had the 7 days 3.36 to consolidated 3.57. 210,000 for streaming. I mean, really? I thought that was the future. And so, Anthony, go on. Sorry, Rachel.
No, I was just going to say, I made a post the other day about the Robot Revolution on X, and someone replied to me, and I will talk about this in my ratings video as well later, that that the Robot Revolution still did better than Battlefield Part 1. And I couldn't believe it, because we spend all this time being told that we cannot compare Battlefield or the old to the new way of how viewings are actually rated. But the thing is that the cope was very real, because I saw it not just on my post from this particular person, but on other people's posts as well. They were like, not the same person, but other people were saying, oh, it's doing better than Battlefield Part 1, but if you add up Battlefield altogether, it's 3.65 million on the average score. So it's basically better than the Robot Revolution.
And being someone who's old enough to watch Battlefield Part 1 live and having to fight for the chance, because Coronation Street on the other side, a lot of people watched it on VHS afterwards because mum or dad were watching Coronation Street, and those would never have been included in Battlefield's figures. And I think you're talking into the millions there. Not forget the streaming malarkey. There would have been at least 2 or 3 million, I'd imagine, households would have recorded Battlefield for watching later. So I'm not sure the comparison works for that, So
no, I don't think it does either.
Well, here is what RTD is going to say, guys. He's going to say, everyone yesterday got up really early to watch the Pope's funeral. No disrespect. But then everyone went to bed early. So that's why they didn't watch as much. So that's going to be like the news.
Were they funeraled out? Yeah.
I mean, Paul, I find it fascinating. I mean, people go mad about, the minutiae of the ratings and say, get over it, chill or chill out. It's still a popular program, but it's number 2, it's number 5, it's all that stuff. And I don't like some of that froth anyway. I'm pointing out with that figure from Space Babies to the Well that I smooth out all the bumps and the peaks and the troughs. And basically the trend is nearly a third of the audience have gone in a year. That is shocking.
I agree completely. I don't think any amount of dissembling or obfuscation can hide that. And I think the die is cast. I don't think there's any redemption for this era, and nor should there be. All I'm sort of doing is, just as one person watching it, is just if I see improvement or a need to give credit within one episode, then I will. I have seen a pronounced improvement since the first episode in parts. This is the first one where it's been an entire success. But I do agree, ever since those specials didn't deliver, ever since they gave no deference to the fact that it was the 60th anniversary, then I think people made their minds up. They've watched out of curiosity and sort of car crash TV, as it were, but nobody really had any loyalty after that, I don't think. Not for a full investment, because it was so disrespectful to the 60th. It was just too disrespectful.
And just final thing, context-wise, Celebrity Big Brother's launch got 2.7, so Doctor Who getting 1.86, and I think it's a similar target audience. Interior Design Masters, with its great global streaming platform, Kit's 2.57.
What the hell's that?
So, I mean, hello, these are now beating Doctor Who. And so, yes, interesting. Now, Rachel, you sent these to me. Thanks. Samba TV, I
Samba
couldn't find
TV.
couldn't
Yep.
find it.
Yeah, Samba TV. This is one of the American platforms for ratings, and they just publish the weekly ratings. They publish theirs just before the Nielsen charts publish theirs. So this is where you get some information about Disney Plus. It's not appearing, and then obviously we've got Flix Patrol, and it's still not appearing on Flix Patrol either today or yesterday. I don't know if it will tomorrow.
So there you go. Is Doctor Who even being noticed or measured? So yeah, it is a shock horror. Now,
well,
we do have-
interestingly enough, I've not been able to find any data so far on the Flix Patrol for 2025 Doctor Who. Like zero. Can't even access it. So I don't know what's going on there. But it's not charting
And going back
unless it's on individual.
to that
Yeah,
list,
to that this.
the most going back to that chart, the most talked about show for word of mouth right now in the United States is The Pit. It's a medical drama where it follows life in the ER, and it's like 12 episodes, and every episode is 1 hour in that shift. HBO premiered it, had no publicity for it, and it is number one. It's getting up there in the charts because it's word of mouth.
Well, here we go. I mean, we've been hitting all the issues to do with the Doctor Who, but we need to talk about the episode. And of course, we've got criteria reviews. Number 1 is safeguarding of Doctor Who.
Do you want our predictions for next week?
Use of production resources. Number 2. Number 3 is audience engagement. Sorry, what?
Sorry, Brent. Do you want predictions for next week's ratings, or are you going to leave that this week?
Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm just setting it up for people to know where we're going next, if you get my gist. And we score out of 10, and you can see there. So if anyone gives 9 or 10, they think it's an outstanding episode. Good, goes all the way down. So that's where we're heading in a moment. And I just want everybody to know, because they'll maybe be getting frustrated. Go, come on, get your review going, you swines. So basically, as you can see, there isn't much to beat from season 1. I've got my pen and paper here, John. I'm ready. So, John, your prediction, just before we do move on to the review in full, what's your prediction for what Lucky Day gets?
And forgive me for thinking that you were afflicted with the same forgetfulness that I am these days. Sorry for that, Brendan. There's obviously... Now, prediction for next week, I think it will flatline. It'll probably come out roughly the same. A better episode, because it was a better episode, may well get a bit of word of mouth. People might tune in, but I refer the honourable gentleman to my previous comment. I think the damage is done with this now, so I think we're amongst the hardcore now. So yeah, I'd say, but is that 1.65? Did we say this week? Was it?
It got 1.86.
Well, I would say 1.85. There you go.
Okay, Michelle.
Oh, I'm so bad at this. 1.65.
Okay, she's taking it down. Rachel?
Right. Well, I don't think it's going to go back up over 2 million until towards the end of the series. So I'm going to say 1.87. Just go 1 million more, because people like Rose Ayling-Ellis. And that's my reason.
Paul?
I think 1.9.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is interesting. It depends whether people have enjoyed the episode as well, because you can see what's happened there. So from that, we had 1.86. I got it slightly wrong last time as well. So basically,
I nailed it.
Yeah, you nailed it, you swine. So so what did Rachel say? 1 point? No, I don't know. I'll say one. Just so it's different, I will say 1.88. I'm not sure. We're all thinking
isn't it?
Yeah, we all think it's going to flatline a bit, don't we? Really?
Yeah.
So here we go with our scoring system, which there's a whole lot to do. We have this year our Tombstone Totaliser. So everybody get ready, because we're going to go into criteria 1, which is basically, was what we saw on Saturday night or whenever you saw it, was that really Doctor Who? So here we go. Oh, it could be that monster from the episode we've just had, actually. So, might as well start. Was that True Who or Boohoo, John?
Yes, it was. It was more true than it's been for quite some time. Certainly this season, and for a good bit of last season too. Yeah, so I'm going to be kind to it this time. The Doctor, it frightened. You know, the Doctor, despite what he was wearing, despite the notion that he is very much cares about what people think about him and how he looks and what he's wearing and all the rest of it. Still got a fair bit more doctory things to do in this. Although ultimately, and we'll get to the resolution criteria 3, although ultimately he didn't resolve the situation correctly. But yeah, this was more identified with Doctor Who in that it was scary. It had a base under siege, if you like, or elements of that going on. There was an identifiable villain doing nasty things for the Doctor to defeat. So all those are sort of basics that you want to have within Doctor Who. So yes, this is probably the most Doctor Who's been for a while. Now, I still have issues with the way this was carried out, but nonetheless, if this was a trajectory and it was doing that, then I'd be quite happy with that. So I rated this as a good because it was good. But then again, when you've had toothache and you no longer have toothache, it's also good. You've just reverted to where things should be. And Doctor Who hasn't been proper Doctor Who for quite some time now. So just because this is good doesn't mean what they're doing is good. It's just delivering what it should deliver for Doctor Who. Do you understand what I mean?
I think I need an interpret. No.
No, seriously,
well,
I'm not trying to be obfuscating that. I just think, well, this was good. It's just delivering what Doctor Who should deliver, and I think perhaps too many fans will be bending over backwards to say what a wonderful person Russell Davies is, and he's just doing what Doctor Who is. Doctor Who is easy. And, most of the work's done for you, and if you got a good writer with the good concept that Doctor Who is, you can knock it out of the park. This just does what Doctor Who should do. So to that extent, it's good. And it is probably Doctor Who, but that's all it is.
Yeah. Now, Paul, I know from your scores, you pretty well really did enjoy this one. So, when I say True Who or Boohoo, tell us what you really enjoyed about the actual Doctor characterization, the story per se.
Okay. I think Gatwa's settled upon an investigative, sympathetic, understanding Doctor. I like the expression on his face sometimes when people are talking to him. When Rose, for instance, said that she did the cooking, and then she said, "Well, I don't really cook. I just sort of open the lids off." She said something like that. It was self-deprecatory, and there was a smile on the Doctor's face. There was a sort of his face was quite stoic, but he managed to put across the fact that he had nothing but understanding and respect for her. And I thought it was a nice little touch, and I've seen several touches like that from him since this series started. So I think he's hit his stride. It's taken him far too long, and as I said, it's probably not going to be redeemable, but he has hit his stride, and I'm impressed with him. I also like the investigative nature of the story, how they wanted to explore, and they made us want to explore with them. I like the pace. I like the fact that they established a sense of foreboding, the unseen. There was definitely something there that was dangerous, and it all led up to an excellent first 20 minutes. And then when the action and the deaths and the telekinesis started, it was very well prepared for and very well delivered upon. And to me, that's what Doctor Who should be. It should give you those feelings. It should give you those expectations, and it should fulfill them abundantly. And it did. And to be honest with you, it didn't let go of me until the end. And the sin of last week casts a much longer shadow than 7 days. So I was sort of prepared to be looking for disjoints and jarring events like fans invading the episode or some such. But after that opener where they went plummeting towards the planet, where they were sort of inadvertently roped into the mission, I was just completely engrossed. You know, there was no sense that this wasn't Doctor Who. None.
Yeah, and I was just Philip was just saying that they thought that it was boring and all the rest of it. That's normally our criteria 3, the engagement element, because
Okay,
in
fair
the
enough.
end,
Okay.
no, I'm not saying that to you. I'm just saying to Philip. Matthew Burrows here, I would give it a 7. Gatwa's still not hitting the mark enough as the Doctor. One thing, and I'm just shouting something in there just to sprinkle a conversation for the next person to come on, so Rachel or Michelle. The Doctor at the end had sent that instruction to nuke the planet. That, I mean, true who boohoo. I go back to the Silurians. I mean, whoa, what, the Doctor saying nuke a planet? So anyway, that's just a little park there. But Rachel, your thoughts on true who boohoo?
So yes, it was a lot closer than what we have seen in a very long time. I would say it was closer to Doctor Who. The supporting cast were fantastic. I think everyone was really well cast. I think the cast was a little bit big, but you know, that is what it is. However, the attachment to Midnight, I just don't dig it. And it just brought it down way too much for me in that respect. I was thinking all the way throughout, right up until they mentioned Midnight. This is giving me series 4 vibes with there's something on your back. That's what it kept making me think of. And then Shaya, the captain, she describes the planet, and I went, "Oh, that sounds like Midnight. Oh, this is Midnight. Oh, for goodness sake." Okay, so now you're just unbottling something and ruining the vibes for me of what Midnight meant to me as a person. So it just took away from Midnight, and I don't like that. However, if it had not gone down that route, I think I would have been very happy with it for what it was, given what we've had as well. It did feel like Doctor Who. Just a shame they had to tie it to Midnight, unfortunately, and I was pretty scathing about it.
Yeah,
But
I mean, Michelle,
I think my reason's justified. So
yeah, I mean, Michelle, I did think out of every. I mean, I'll say it now. I'll park it now. Since RTD came back, this I think was his best story.
Oh yeah, and there is a stride being hit with RTD2 and with Ncuti Gatwa, but at the same time, it's such a low bar.
Yeah,
it's hard because it's like when I'm thinking of my reviews, it's like, do I genuinely like it, or do I say I like it because I want Who to do well? So what point is I'm thinking, am I being too hard or too generous? As I said earlier in the comments, is where we are some of the probably the most charitable fans because we genuinely want the show to do well. We want it to last. And we're kind of in a hard position right now because we're seeing something that we love wither away on the vine.
So I mean, we've had our first opening gambit on the episode. This is what I mean. I think our expectations have lowered, and we've had some such shocks and breaking fourth walls and stuff like that, and things that are very experimental. Doctor Who, if that's me being polite. So when you get an episode where it does feel a bit darker, it's a bit. Some people said they were expecting a kind of earth shock because of the photographs and how it looked. Yeah, a mining colony. You can't go wrong with Doctor Who having a mining colony, and they uncovered.
Based on their siege, that's Doctor Who 101. That's classic.
I would say it was much improved without the fourth wall breaks.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
yes,
because let's just enjoy the drama and go with that linear story, please.
Yeah, the tension and the pace, it was all there. It was just as soon as they mentioned Midnight, I pretty much knew what was going to happen. The predictability, it wasn't exactly the same, and I'm glad it wasn't exactly the same, but I had the general gist from that point.
Well, we knew going into it there was going to be a sequel to Midnight this season, so there was no big reveal to be broken.
I wasn't shocked.
You know, there was no shocking in this. You know, it's kind of like RTD doing one of the by generation of please don't go on social media. It's like desperate. It's like we're trying to get something, you know, hype that there's no hype there. Versus Earth Shock, you guys were genuinely shocked that Adric got blown into bits and you know, extinct. It caused the extinction of the dinosaurs.
When this is what I mean. Mad Mackham, up obviously in Sunderland area near me, has said, you know, that Genesis of the Daleks, we had that really famous Doctor moment when he said, "Do I have the right?" And that was to commit genocide of the Daleks. Meanwhile, he sends an instruction on Saturday: nuke the planet. Remember, in Space Babies, because this creature, that snot monster, whatever it was, because it was a unique creature, he couldn't do the aliens echo and send it into space. He saved it. And
yeah,
so,
and he's also having qualms about destroying the Daleks, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, anyway.
I mean, when my judgments come in on is it Doctor Who or not, and is it the Doctor or not, it did have a Doctor Who vibe. Of course it did, because it was hitting a lot, like Michelle said, a lot of the tropes that we expect. So that worked. Storyline, there's a few things I'll mention. Anything else, John, on this one before I start to reveal the scores on Boohoo, True Who?
No, I just refer back to the point I made there. I gave this 7. Just to put it inside the category of good, because it was good. But I'm not going to reward production team for doing what Doctor Who should have been doing for years now anyway. It's this notion that we're all grateful for, oh my goodness, proper Doctor Who. No, it should be like that every week, to varying degrees of success, but it just should be like that every single week. And
I assume he'll come back.
It's John Light.
Despite. So let me just show you on the big screen, everybody, and I'll take you through the scores, and I'm sure John will come back. So you can see there, Paul's obviously the biggest change. We all know last week he was scoring a few noughts, weren't you, Paul?
Everyone,
yeah. So you can see everybody is fair, and that's what I mean. That's the beauty of our panel. And the same happened last year, that people are aware what their spectrum is of their judgments over each episode. So Paul thinks, God, this is vastly advanced, and brings in an 8. John brings in a 7. Michelle brings in an 8, which means they're thinking it's good. Rachel, 3. You need to explain yourself.
Well, I am justified. Tying it to midnight was what brought it down to a 3. Unbottling a bottled story. You're just going to make it chaotic now.
Yeah. So you say special measures, and
special measures. It's still a good story, though.
Yeah, I've got it at the top end of it needs improvement. It's getting there. Bit like what John was saying. It's getting there. So there's the totalizer there, folks. I don't know if that shocks anybody or not. Like I said, they've all been locked in for a little while. That means out of 50, we gave it 32 as a collective.
am I back?
Sorry?
Am I back? I don't know.
Yes, you are. You're back.
You are back.
Because I've got a little picture of myself frozen in time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's why I'm just carrying on. So and 64% of the possible mark was achieved there for it. So that's near bad. Now we move on to the next one, which is the use of the production resources. Now you can go from director to acting to music to special effects. The panel takes their choice on that one. We don't say, oh, well, because Disney's got loads of money and they spent it, therefore we have to give it 10 out of 10. That would be just a waste of criteria. We don't do it like that. What I'm saying is, sometimes Doctor Who in classic times didn't have much money, but they used it wisely for the set, say. We all know, for example, the Planet of Evil Forest. Brilliant set design with limited budget. Nerva Beacon. Now, I would be awarding the set design and actually maybe giving it 8, 9, or 10 out of 10. Do you see what I mean? It's not about how much money spent per se. It's whether it adds to the drama. So, Michelle, you've been moved closer to me. Sorry about that. So, you've been moved along. So, Michelle, your thoughts on this one?
This one I gave it higher, like an 8, because one problem with the Disney is that it looks too pretty. You know, you don't get this, everything's nice and shiny and it has this artificial look to it. This one felt like a gritty, dirty, yucky, cold colony base. It didn't feel, and of course, then we also have like the dead bodies everywhere. It felt like this has been lived in for a while. It had this grittiness that we haven't seen in Doctor Who for a long time. So that's why I gave it up higher scores for the decor, the sets, and that's really where I was leaning for. I think the music and bringing back Murray Gold has proven to be a mistake. He is using way too much of his old music, and the music doesn't fit with the episode. There used to be much more care given when Murray Gold was on the show previously. Now it just feels like, you know, let's just put in the incidental music for Doctor Who and call it a day.
Okay, Rachel?
I had a look at this. Can you hear me? Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the script, I went for the script. Oh, yes, because that is a real niggle of mine this week. But I did go higher than the 3 this time. I was a bit more fair in this one. Now, it has a lot of qualities of Doctor Who, like I've already said, but it's too much like Midnight. I think we've maintained, I've established that. I think it's the strongest of RTD2 so far, but I think the Doctor is still too inconsistent, and that is affecting the performances of Ncuti, and it probably affects everyone else around them as well. And particularly if they're basing things off the rushes too, that doesn't help anyone. And I would say with what they did with the ending of this story, I think the payoff is going to have to be really, really big in order to make this work. I have the strangest feeling they're going to be bringing this entity back and
Yes.
later in the series. I have this strangest feeling. I don't know if I heard the giggle laugh at some point. I did hear laughter from
Mentions,
the well,
yeah,
but
it laughed when it came out the well was the dialogue.
so okay.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it is going to be a pantheon of some
There is
degree. I don't
there
know
was
what.
that dialogue as well when the Doctor said the first time he met it, it played with him, it played games, and that's when you
Yeah.
thought, oh no, and it leads into what you're saying there.
Yeah. I did find the story a little bit plot holey. But I did find, yeah, I do talk about in my review what the plot holes were, and I haven't got my my notebook to hand to remind me what those were, but I did find them a little bit plot holey. And I don't like the writing for Belinda. I just don't like Belinda, straight up. I think she's going to be probably a trickster of some kind. I'm hoping she's a baddie. But I don't like the writing for her with this strong, independent woman who doesn't need no man. But the way that it's being played and the acting choices behind what Verada is doing, I think she's better than that. I feel like Ncuti has given us 110%, even though it's not necessarily the right 110%. And Verada is just doing 20. And I want her to push it a bit more and give it a bit more oomph. Much like how I was talking about Ncuti in the beginning, he now seems to be doing that. Now Verada's got to match that. And I just don't like I don't like her acting choices.
She's got a bit of dialogue every week at the moment talking about what about my parents, and it's a bit repetitive.
Yeah, and her facial expressions, they're not very I can't describe it. I just can't describe what her face is doing. Like, she's not a bad actress. I don't have an issue with her in general as an actress. I just think she's better than what she's given us. I will say one thing though. I quite like the tie-ins from the other stories. So you know how they're still in their costumes from Lux at the beginning.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
what I would like to see is them entering the TARDIS much like they did back in the classic series and just going straight into the next. And I think this plays into what you were saying earlier, Brendan, straight into the next sort of adventure. You know, they go to move the TARDIS and suddenly the TARDIS just goes like that and it's all gone wrong and bam, they're into the next story. But I do like those little tie-ins. So I hope everyone understood what I was saying. I was a bit all over the place there. I think I convoluted myself.
No, I know. I mean, Paul. In the end, I mean, yeah, set design. I suppose the standout in a way was the acting of Rose Lynn Ellis as an example. Really, she was a good choice. It was an interesting choice because I think RTD did say that initially in the plot the character wasn't deaf, so actually she brought a different element to it, a greater vulnerability.
I think in many ways she was the central character for much of the run, but I think everybody acquitted themselves well. I think everybody convinced me that they were the person that they were portraying. I think the direction was flawless, editing, all of the things that you're not supposed to notice. I didn't notice. I just noticed a good story. I noticed a convincing, immersive story, and I agree about with the point that we shouldn't lean into gratitude too much, because this, assuming it's agreed upon that this is good, then yes, it should be. We shouldn't have to sort of wait however many episodes for a good episode of Doctor Who and then absolutely be jubilant about it. So I do agree about that, but I'm just doing this on an ad hoc basis, and I'm just judging this as an excellent episode of Doctor Who, not on a comparative basis where I'm comparing it to the dross that we've been getting, but I think this episode can stand alongside any era as a decent episode. That's my thought.
I tell you what, John, I hate that vindicator nonsense. This fishing line metaphor that 1 minute it gets him to 1952 and the next minute he's 530. I mean, that's a bit of rubbish fishing, isn't it?
Yeah, and maybe something will come of it later on. I see Angie Watts at the end when she reappeared was talking about the Doctor having his vindicator. There may well be a reason, somebody getting vindicated about there might be some what Russell Davies considers to be clever wordplay about this. Who cares? Who knows? But anyway, in terms of criteria too, for me, it pressed some good buttons there. The direction was very good. The acting was good too. I don't really know the actress we were talking about here. I thought she did a good, decent job. I'm not about to sort of fall over backwards and say she was wonderful and BAFTA award winning. It was good, and all of it was good. But I think the co-stars and supporting cast were equally as good in the main as she was. So I'm not just going to assume because this was a deaf actress that she rose above the rest of the cast. I don't think she did. However, what I will say was I probably think I would have given an extra point, because again, I've squeezed this into the good category of 7, I think, because it was good. So I've given it a 7. I probably would have pushed it further into the good category with an 8, but for the performance of the lead, who does not know how to portray the Doctor. I don't know what character this man is portraying, but it isn't the Doctor. He was dressed as a Marvel superhero with a tight-fitting, butt-hugging little number, and probably thought he looked tremendous, and everybody fancied him, and then cried on cue as usual. But whoever he was, he's not the Doctor. And even the character, was it Cassio, the character, having to say to him, don't speak to him like that, you're not acting appropriately. We had this discussion earlier about how the Doctor acts, underplays his role in order to gain some sort of advantage over the people in the situation he's in. Should he just playing it to be cute, I think, and that undercuts everything else. So, yeah, good solid mid Doctor Who, I would say, but if we've all been in a desert, a glass of dirty water would seem appealing to us too.
Yeah. This is classic Doctor Who in many ways. It was a lower budget, clearly. Like I said, it was almost theatrical. You had 1 or 2 main sets, some fancy spacesuits, and let's get on with it. That's Doctor Who. And so therefore, as long as it looks efficient and all the rest of it, and as Michelle said, the set looks rough and ready and all the rest of it, great. That's all you need from Doctor Who. Now we need a story. Now we need good acting. I know a lot of people had an issue about the music and that. I didn't actually. I was all right. Some people said the callbacks to earlier New Who from Murray Gold was a bit of a disjoint. Some people said I saw online. I was all right with that. I quite liked that kind of effect Murray Gold was doing with the music and the effect of getting you tense. I thought it all worked in that respect. But I think you'll hear what I have to say when I come to the third criteria about whether it all came together, though. That's the issue. I still don't I mean, can I shout out to the director, the Australian, Amanda Brochi, I think I've enjoyed Lux, the way she's directed it, and I've enjoyed the way she's directed this one. I've not heard from her before. I did like this direction, and so I applaud that. So on that criteria, we're ticking boxes.
Oh, very much so. I agree with that. I think she understands sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe more than the writer.
Yeah, and also there was a little problem I had with the pacing of this. There was it flattened out at certain points, and it seemed to be a little flat. There were that moments, and Murray Gold, bless him, with his music, was trying to get to those peaks where we'd all be on the edge of our seat about something dramatic, and it wasn't quite. He was having to work too hard, I think, because what was on screen really wasn't meriting the music he was putting behind it. So this has nowhere reached the heights of, oh, look, I'll have to whistle again if you're careful in that picture. I might have to whistle. Be careful. I don't think Russell Davies has hit the heights of season 3 and 4 in terms of those big dramatic punches he's putting into this. So I say this was fairly middling Doctor Who, for all which we must be grateful in this dearth we're going through at the moment.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say before we move on, obviously, if everybody wants to give their thread marks now, some have been given them. Dalek Matters says 2 out of 10 for the amusement of how low the activist writing has actually descended. So Dalek Lives Matters judging it on its writing, and that's the way we do it. So over to you, thread, with your marks, as I now show the marks from the panel. John's given us a sneaky peek to his. And here they are. Paul 8, John 7, Michelle 9, Rachel 5, and myself 8. We all have different reasons. You've heard some of them. Just before we move on, and as people give us their marks in the thread, in the end, I just thought it did have that kind of classic Doctor Who vibe. The set functioned. Nothing wrong with the costumes and all the rest of it. Of course, you can't judge prosthetics because the monster was never seen. You know, in that way, we're all fine and dandy.
Can I just repeat myself? The risk of repeating myself, Brendan. You're quite right. It did have classic Doctor Who vibes, but without having a classic Doctor in it, because whoever the character is, he isn't the Doctor.
There you go. Well, Paul Holgate, 0 points. Oh God, Paul, last week he's doing you. He's Neo Gear, 4 out of 10. Lee Smith, 5 out of 10. It's interesting, isn't it? The Carcass, 7 out of 10. Crimpling, 8. Anthony Green, 7.5. There's always one. 8 from Squinty Mint. Farsight, 4. Matthew Burrows, 9. Are we getting a pattern here, or are we all? Do you know, so many Doctor Who stories are just not... Yeah, Marmite again. So we're all over the shop, but that's everybody's opinion. So where did that get us? That got us to 37 out of 50. So therefore, on use of production resources, it got 74% of its possible score. So there you go. Now we come to, as I said, and as I teased, this is the one, which is... You can have your fancy gadgets, you can have your fancy dialogue, you can have your fancy costumes and all the rest of it, whatever you want to say. But did it engage for the 47 minutes? And straight away, I want to say, just to kind of lead it in, if I'm judging it on that, Jamie said to me, I got bored 2/3 of the way through. Jamie just said, he said, did you get bored, Brendan? Well, I watched it twice and I said, was it around here? Because I said, I'm starting to just lose it a bit here. And so my point, just before I lead on to the panelists, is there was an element where, yes, he's trying to create tension and suspense, and I know what they're doing, and they did it better with Midnight, I'll be honest with you. But I don't know if it's because the monster was doing different things. Midnight was fascinating. The stealing of somebody's voice was so impactful. And I don't think that was replicated. And And so when she says there's something behind me, there's something behind me, there's something behind me, and everyone's having a look, and I said there was a little bit of repetition, and I think there was the boredom started to come in. We needed something additional, is my own personal opinion. Michelle?
Yeah, because there is a point with this era where about halfway through it starts going downhill. Like we're like the roller coaster's going up to the top, and instead of having thrills, it just kind of goes. And that is the hard part with this era. Like he gets the idea of a good story, but it's the denouncement at the end that it just doesn't go anywhere. I mean, what was the point of having the Mercury? I mean, really, I thought that was to detach it from and not have it being jumped onto Belinda.
Yeah. I mean, Rachel, I mean, I know you can tell me why you've scored it like you scored it, but
Yeah.
the resolution, because he leaves some of these episodes open-ended, because he's got an arc, he's got Mrs. Flood, he's trying to do other things. There is an element where I have to say you're dissatisfied in certain things, because the Doctor, number one, didn't solve that episode.
No, he didn't.
So I'm not happy with the resolution. I'm not happy that the Doctor basically ballsed up.
No, and I wrote down that I also wasn't happy with the resolution. I think the Doctor made some very poor choices in the last moment, allowing Belinda to be shot. He should have found another way to overcome that. Chasing after Shea when she's got the entity, supposedly got the entity on her back. That was a mistake. And it's just, I'm just not happy with the resolution whatsoever. It was something that didn't amount to anything. And this is why I am saying that this really needs a big payoff. And this is why I feel it's going to come back.
Yeah. I mean, Paul, one element of the ending I really disliked, and we judge it on resolution and engagement, don't we? But it was the fact that Shayla did this heroic self-sacrifice, and then only about a minute later we realized that was a waste. And I think it's RTD and Unleashed says we've got to be careful with the 6-year-olds, that we have the right message in and show this and show that and all the other. And then he's just shown somebody give their life for naught. But it's some nice words. There you go. I was unsatisfied with all that. I thought, what a shame.
Why was their sacrifice a waste?
Because the monsters...
Go on, sorry, please.
You know, because the monsters got out.
How do we know that it got out?
The whisper at the end.
No. That was a binary ending. You could either assume that it got free, because let's be honest, we don't know too much about it, and the be all and the end all of this entity should never be arrived at. Alternatively, it was the imagination of that other trooper. It was an open ending, so there's nothing concrete about the idea that this thing left the planet. I don't accept that.
Paul, you know that photograph? I showed it earlier. I can't get it now, but there was the photograph of the 3 people got into the pod, and on the side it showed, capacity 6, but it showed 4 people.
Right.
So
yeah, but
what was that all about?
Point, I don't know, but I felt it was an open ending. She in the lift. That's when Shayla decided to make the sacrifice, wasn't it? When Belinda had the entity on her back, or however you want to put it, the Doctor wanted to make a sacrifice, and prior to them all getting into the lift, he tried his best to come up with a resolution. I don't think the Doctor should always succeed, but he should try his best. He used what was to hand. It was quite an innovative and ingenious solution, but this creature was either as elusive and slippery as Mercury itself, or was simply too powerful and savvy. But the Doctor did his best. I don't accept this notion that the Doctor was impotent. I don't.
You know what? Well, I'll add a bit as I come to John. John, one of my issues with this resolution with the Doctor was, that moment they were running away. They had to get to that pod quickly. He told Belinda to stop. He wanted to have a little nosy at the monster. That delay delayed the shuttle taking off. And surprise, surprise, the monster gets in the shuttle.
Yeah, and again, Doctor's fault. And this is, this is where I am at. Why I've given this 3, and as opposed to the other higher marks I've given this. I think, to be honest, while I respect Paul's opinion, I disagree with it quite severely, because I don't consider this to be a definitive end to this creature. I think that it's fairly well signalled that this creature has got away. And as a result of that, that means that this Doctor, yet again, has failed in the task of the hero of our programme. And that means the resolution is not good. So whether or not it turns out to be the case that this thing returns or not, we're left with the notion that the sacrifice of these people and the self-sacrifice of the character who throws herself into the well was in vain. And not just in vain, allowing the people instantly to escape. Within minutes, it's nullified. It becomes unnecessary. And that makes the resolution all very poor for me. And that's why I had to give it a 3. Ultimately, I think I agree with you, Brendan. Again, I don't know, it's 4 or 5 times this stream, heaven help us.
It's my favourite show.
Crikey, heaven help it. It will not happen again, so savour it.
One more miracle and he could become a saint.
Oh my goodness, it is. Yeah, I'll join that conclave. Maybe. But the thing about it is, it's the totality of all of this. We are now reaching a point within these episodes where such is the mischaracterization of the Doctor and the missteps, because he's too busy posing and prancing and preening, that he's not doing the job of the hero of the Doctor does, and we end up with some endings that we get and end up with a bit of a mishmash, and it's wholly unsatisfactory. Children watching this, the 6-year-olds at Russell Davies, should know that their hero comes away victorious at the end of this, and they don't know that. They're left feeling the Doctor has failed these people, and as a result of that, has failed them too.
And it is a dangerous message that I liked that female leader, and I thought, oh wow. And whether you had to hark back to her childhood, whatever, it went a bit Star Wars, I felt, but you had all that moment. But I thought, and that was Alien 3, let's be honest. It was Alien 3. It was the big moment when Ripley falls away. Fine, you can echo that. Yeah, Doctor Who has done not parody, but it's emulated other things before. That's fair enough. But Ripley won, because that moment when the alien came out of her chest and it was going to be burned, and so she won. It was brilliant. Whereas in this one, oh bless her, she killed herself. By the way, suicide is kind of, you'll say it's duty and it's not suicide, but she sacrificed her own life. Definitions are abound, and all for nothing. I think that's dangerous with children watching, I have to say.
The children need heroes. There is a responsibility for the people, the makers of this show, who hold its legacy and the stewardship in their hands, to make sure that the character of the Doctor remains, with all the different wacky things you can do with this individual, remains the same. And for too much time now in this iteration, the Doctor is more interested in how he looks and how he sounds than he is in what he's doing and how he affects those surrounding him. And that's a distinct failure of this production team, and they're letting that generation of children who should have their hero, they're letting them down.
This isn't
sorry, go on, Paul. Come in,
this
and then
This isn't just a children's show, and in any event, children can cope with ambiguity and interpretation and being able to make inferences. I think the nature of this episode was equally as compelling to children as adults. I think they'll have been engrossed. I don't accept the fact that it has to hone into what children want. I think it can be more expansive and more encompassing.
Well, I know it's just that, me, I'm a stickler with this one. If RTD tells me something in Unleashed or in an interview, his countless interviews, and tells me he's bothered about the 6-year-olds, I'm going to remind him of the 6-year-olds. That's all. It's just,
Fair enough.
That's all. It's just hoist by his own petard, I think they say.
Yeah, that's fair enough. He does talk too much.
He does. It was Unleashed is dangerous for him. Anyway, I was just going to bring in the thread before they give me their marks and we wrap this up. Crimpling to Bloom. If the entity is always behind someone, what happens when that person goes to the loo? Does the entity perch on the system until they're finished? Big
That's why
finish.
the mirrors are broken.
What about Sutek?
That's a big finish episode, I'm sure, in the future. All the gaps.
What
Demorphin.
about Sutek?
Oh, stuff him.
The,
real...
the entity is gassed out when they go to the loo.
Demorphin, there was a real terror in that wasn't about the entity, but what about the panicky humans? It was psychologically so accurate. Small things like Jethro finally caving felt immense. That's why I liked Midnight. I loved the paranoia, the hysteria. It was the Crucible, wasn't it? It was Arthur Miller's The Crucible. But it was fine. It was great. And yeah, human psyche. Neville, I can accept that they didn't know about humans if Earth had disappeared from time. Actually, we've not mentioned that, everybody. The Earth doesn't exist anymore. But you know what? That resolution did... sorry, that's not the resolution. They mentioned it about 4 or 5 times that the Earth doesn't exist and there's no human race. The trouble is, we'd already seen the Eiffel Tower in space, so there's no shock and no impact.
The thing is, isn't that a gaping plot hole? This is one that I was trying to remember earlier and I couldn't remember what it was. Isn't that a gaping plot hole? Because Midnight was colonized by humans.
Yeah.
So surely they would know that, knowing that the knowledge that they were going in on a rescue mission to this colony, that it would have been originally previously populated by humans. Unless Rtd's just forgetting his own story.
He doesn't need this. I know. I was just perturbed that thinking. My big question last night was saying if the Doctor hadn't landed, because with his Vindicator, because let's face it, every week it's a bit like the randomizer during the time after the Keter time period. It's a bit like that, really. It's just a little method there. But if he hadn't landed, then how would that story have been different? Basically, those adventurers would have died, and one person would have been left being the host. And isn't that better than it's now out? I know, Paul, you haven't. It's now loose. I mean, really? So the Doctor's made it worse.
Absolutely has, yeah. That's
I don't accept that it is loose, Brendan. I don't accept that it is loose. I don't accept that it is.
Okay,
it's not concrete, it's not categoric, it's just your inference. And everybody has the right to draw an inference, but I don't accept that yours is concrete.
No, it wasn't an inference. I've actually studied this. I've watched this twice and I've done screenshot after screenshot. I actually don't have a life. And I've actually gone through everything and I've had the subtitles on and I, like a classic English teacher, have analysed the script. So basically, there was a bit at the end. Thread, what do you think? It's just interesting what they think.
Well, the
subtitles actually say there's this whisper. Well, what? Why put that in the script? Why put in the script? Remember, I've just applauded the director. Why was the director in the script told to show that there were 4 people in the pod when there were 3? Why?
I can't account for that. I just think it's an open ending. At this point, I see it as binary. I see it could either have perished or become incapacitated on the planet, or I feel that the other trooper, the girl, thought she saw something because she was privy to what happened down on the planet. There was no actual shot of the silhouette behind, I forget the black girl's name. There was no shot of the creature behind her when the other girl said she thought she saw something. And in at least one other instance, there was no shot of this silhouette behind it when that other trooper said he saw something. So I think ambiguity there was an imbuing of ambiguity in this. That's how I see it.
You see, it was just that soldier, the female soldier at the very end. I mean, put it this way, why would RTD write that scene? Do you know what I mean? Why is that scene in? Why was that shot of the pod and the 4 instead of the 3? And why did he have this female soldier who I hadn't seen before, really? And she looked quizzical to her. That's a non-event scene unless the inference is what I've just been saying.
It's because of the presupposition that person was privy to what happened. Now, if it should happen that this comes back as the pantheon of the gods, then fair enough. Okay, there's nothing I'll be able to say. But in terms of this episode, I feel that it was pitched in that way, and that's how I saw it. It's not that I'm choosing to see it. That's how I saw it. Any whispers or anything could be her imagination. She's had a briefing on what happened, and she's prone to seeing things just like some of the others did, and that's how I see it. A binary ending at this point.
Brent, if I could just throw in just a just to finish this off, yeah, I absolutely Paul's entitled to that. And it may well be that she imagined this, but the other evidence you give in terms of there's a second person saying, what's that behind you? There was the number, the discrepancy on the numbers. We as the viewers are being invited to believe something. That's the point behind this. If you choose to ignore that and say, well, no, actually, the whole thing was resolved, also fine. But nonetheless, the writer is choosing to leave us and younger people to think that the Doctor failed. This thing escaped. And had the Doctor not been there, it would still have been contained.
Yeah.
Just
to wrap up with various people in the thread, you've been lovely tonight, thread, and I've tried to bring you in as much as I can. Lee Smith, the creature caught up to them because the Doctor stopped to see it. I'm not going to respond to them now. I'm just going to let you have your say. Raymond Williams, I clearly got the impression that it had got back out. Excuse me. Squinty Mint, she saved Belinda's life by self-sacrifice and rationalised it as part of her job. Yeah, duty. And we don't know if Ncuti's actions did result in the monster escaping. Laser. It probably sat and watched her jump down a hole confused.
Eating popcorn.
Yeah. Farsight. Oh, yes, he was impotent. He fought Sutek, Fenric, and had a solution. Yes. Dead Man is more on Paul's side, talking about the paranoia is maybe what we saw there rather than it actually happening. Dalek Lives Matter says it escaped. It's an alien trope crossed with a numpty Doctor, because there was a lot of alien resonances with this, I thought. But yeah. And let's have a look. Self-sacrifice, says Lee Smith. TARDIS is going to look like a very diverse train. Is that what you're saying there? Right. Gosh, loads going on. I think we need the scores on the doors, don't we? That's what we need. So let's go to it. So this is the key, isn't it? We go to it, and if I go big screen first and take that off, Paul give it 10 out of 10 for engagement and resolution. You've heard him tonight. You can see why, and that's how we do it. John, you can see why he might agree with me a little bit more, because look where his score is. Michelle's in the middle to diddle. I'm actually in the middle, but 6, remember, I've got down as still needs a bit of improvement regarding engagement, because me and Jamie did think at one point the suspense dropped, and I thought there was an element of repetition, and I won't go on about and repeat myself. And Rachel there with the 6 as well. So that's the scores. And therefore it got 32 out of 50. And therefore, very like criteria 1, it got 64% of the possible vote it could have had. So where does this leave us, folks? Well, this leaves us with a grand total of 101 out of 150. Out of 150. What does that mean in context, everybody? Well, it means this. First of all, there's your stats. It got 67% of the final share. There's the figure. I'll just make it bigger. We, as a crew, and it's been consistent, it's been the same team every week. Robot Revolution, we give 82. Lux, we give 58. The Well, we've given 101. Do you know what? You have 5 judges, and in the end, I think the collective and, the collective total always says everything. Because what does that mean? If it got 101, that is the best Doctor Who by RTD2 we are all collectively saying since he came back. There you go. Mm-hmm. It's amazing, isn't it? How the scores in the end do what I think everybody has thought. You see online and people say, oh, this is back to classic Who. This is 10 out of 10. You see a lot of that going on. And then you have a few people with doubts. But in the end, I mean, does anyone see? We've had Devil's Card, Space Babies, all of them. And you can see this one is another 20, 30 above it.
Yeah, because that's what Doctor Who should do. It's following the route map of what the series does best. Now, we can all have disagreements about how well it does it, about how well it's resolved in the end, about the character of the Doctor, and all these other things. But ultimately, what this episode has, it has a good soul. It's trying to do what Doctor Who is best at. A creepy mystery. And heroic actions to happen, whether it's by the Doctor or the other characters. It does that, and it does it reasonably well. But I keep bringing it back to this. The very fact that we are grateful for this just tells you how bad things have been up until this point. This, effectively, in other circumstances, a fairly middling episode put elsewhere in other seasons of Doctor Who.
Yes, it makes it only just, I think, borderline good. 101 out of 150 is nothing brilliant.
No.
No. If they had started with this
Yeah.
instead of Space Babies, I think they would have set a pretty decent bar for it to go to.
Yeah.
And go beyond. Like, this story does work, and the reason why it works is because they played off something that existed already. Now, I don't like that fact. I don't like the fact that they did that, and I disagreed with that. But you can't deny that it did kind of pay off.
Yeah. So there you go. I think it's amazing in the end to just see that we've actually hit three figures for once. It shows we can do it. Michelle, does that surprise you that we've actually collectively said that The Well is the best RTD2 story thus far?
No, it doesn't, because it is. It's not great, but it is the better. And we are seeing an improvement, even with Lex with his problems. There are still an improvement from last season, but again, it's too little too late.
I tell you what, as our concluding point, I think what you said, Rachel, is the big one, which is RTD. You said, you know, in every interview, he says, oh, I had this thought in my head. I've been fermenting this idea for 50 years. I've been thinking, and I'm thinking, if you had all these ideas, why didn't you bloody well start with this one? Maybe looks as the second one, but without breaking the fourth wall. And then suddenly you've got a quarter of a season establishing the Doctor instead of having goblin songs and nonsense.
Oh, absolutely. This was established the Doctor much more quicker. I think people, minus the Huns and the babes and whatever, people would have been happier with this. I think it would have been better received, and people would be like, okay, he's given us something. We'll see where he takes it. Because obviously not you can't get the Doctor almost immediately. It does take time to work on characters and build those characters. So I know and I understand and I respect that. But if they had started with that, he would have had the building blocks to go.
So John, sorry, John, if the series is taken off, say, it's all down to him then, isn't it? Because he's structured the series as run.
Yeah, because the thing about it is, the reason why it's happening this way is because the program I know, I don't watch the sideshow Doctor Who Unleashed, but it's Russell Davies's Unleashed. He is not someone who has any effective control, and that's why the production, the projection, the direction, whatever it is of this program is so random at the minute, because there's too much control centered in the vision of one person. He's got the toys, he's got the keys to the kingdom, and he's playing with them. And unfortunately, I think I talked about hubris last week. I think that's exactly what it is. He has had his fingers burnt, however, and I think there will be questions to ask. And he has effectively damaged the reputation he gained for resurrecting Doctor Who in 2005 by allowing himself to be so unfettered this time round and not listening to good counsel. He may well be the person who, having rescued Doctor Who, kills it.
So Dalek Lives Matters, I think it's safe to say, disagrees with us this week. But come on, Dalek Lives Matters, you can watch 200 streams when they pretend they're reviewing. They waffle on and they just mention, oh, this happened and that happened. And oh, do they analyze? Do they actually stick to criteria? Do they try and be objective? I would suggest, no, they don't. They shout their mouth off.
Quite a lot of them go through, regurgitate the blob. That's what it feels like at the moment, a blob. The plot, and they just go in full on savage.
Yeah, which is allowed.
Debate is that's fine. But I think debate is better. Someone said that my review was boring because it was just regurgitated plot. And I'm like, well, which part of the review did you watch? Did you watch the summary, or did you watch the bit where I actually talked about the things that I think worked and what didn't, you know? But I think a fair, balanced approach is probably the best, even if it seems like cope.
Yeah, it might seem like cope, but I don't know how it can be cope when we're trying to show as much evidence as possible. I'm not clutching at straws. We've had a debate tonight. You've seen me, Paul, and John kicking off. How is that cope?
Never happened
when
before.
you did that,
Never
I just
happened
went to church.
before.
Yeah,
We
but
left you,
how is
Michelle
how
and
is
I
that
left
us-
you to it.
how is that us clutching at trying to be as positive as possible? That's us actually saying we disagree with each other. No set agenda, no set script. It's called 5 diverse opinions. That's the
And
whole
that's why
point.
that's what makes the Sense Sphere different, Brendan. God bless the Sense Sphere. All views are listened to and heard.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
hope
yeah.
everybody.
Here.
Yeah, I hope we all did. I mean, that's the whole point. You want a bit of a debate. If we were in the pub, this would be fantastic.
And it's
Um,
fun. I'm sitting here pretending to eat popcorn. This is fantastic because you don't want to be an echo chamber, and that's the problem
No.
right now. Is that RTD is, may I use the vulgar term, sniffing his own farts and living in an echo chamber where everything he does is the greatest thing ever, honey.
Well, everybody, thank you very much. Now, Rachel, you've mentioned your streams. What's landing after this program?
The review. I've got to record it. No, not the review. Oh my goodness, I am tired. Can you tell? I've been working. Not the review. The review's already up. Excuse
Ratings.
me. I'm going to do the ratings. Yes, because I haven't had a chance to do that yet.
Yes,
So.
I've been. You know me. Anyway, so
Yeah.
yes, I've been streaming like a
Beat
good.
me to it.
Michelle, anything you want to tell us? I mean, I know you're busy with books and everything. Anything you want to advertise?
Next week in Fredericksburg, Virginia. I'm going to be the key speaker, the dinner speaker for my book, Haunted Fredericksburg at a horror con in Fredericksburg.
For you.
And I will be off for the next couple of weeks, but I will be back. I have some work commitments. I will miss you all dreadfully, but I'll be back in mid-May.
Okie dokie.
All the best. All the best with it.
Good luck, Michelle.
And John, what wares have you got to advertise?
Yes, well, George and I will be dancing down several streets of Glasgow this week, next week, and most weeks. So just come and see us. Small donations, always grateful.
Bring paper money, not coins.
Oh, no coins that are accepted. We do accept chip and pin.
Anyway, hopefully Dalek Lives Matters, you come back, because let's face it, I hate predictability. Can't stand it. I don't know what they're going to say. I don't know what their judgments are. I actually quite like, it's like a mini Eurovision when they start sending me the texts in with all the grades. Love it. Paul, have you on the sly got a sneaky stream going on?
No, I can honestly say that I haven't. No.
Well, that's good. You can stick with us if you're happy to argue the toss every week.
Perfectly happy. Perfectly happy.
That's the
Paul
way.
comments a lot on lots on my videos, so he's always in there. So
he
Yes,
is.
it's my pleasure, Rachel. It's my pleasure.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
You're a very good supporter. So anyway, we've gone around the house. Thank you very much for your time.
Hold on. You can run us out again. Sometimes I don't get to do this, but thank you, Brendan, for all your hard work, your efforts in getting all this together. It doesn't happen by magic, thread, stream, whoever's listening. These things don't happen by magic. Lots of prep, lots of hard work done by our lovely host here, Brendan. So thanks to Brendan for bringing us all together. Thank you.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely.
Thank you for giving me your time. This is all goodwill. This is all unpaid. You all know that fine well. Thank you for your time.
What?
I appreciate it. Sorry, no check. So no, I almost have always grateful to the panel, because you've given me time, and there's no show without you. So thank you very much, everybody, for your time. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the debate. Me, Paul, John. I mean, every week, it was me and John having a stoush last week.
I love it.
It was his best bit. That was it. Anyway, I better say go. Bye-bye, and see you later, everyone. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
All the best, guys. All the best.